And good morning, YouTube. This old soldier coming at you this morning from a cold, get my camera set up, morning here in Robeson County. I do declare it is colder this morning than it was yesterday morning. Why did I say that? Didn't have any frost on the ground here yesterday morning, but got some this morning. Had a little coating of ice on the windshield, so yeah, I took a little dip last night. It sure enough did. But it is winter, so it's supposed to get cold. I just surprised how cold it got last night. Outside the crank truck preheated, like, whoo, yeah. Definitely got to preheat the old beast this morning. Well, had a good conversation yesterday with you folks. Had a lot of good responses in the remarks, comments yesterday with the conversation talking about our Second Amendment. And for those that added their comments, I certainly appreciate it. I really do. Yep, but this morning I'm going to get back on a few other subjects I haven't touched in a bit, but I've got my reasons for them. One is the so-called legal experts that the Democrats brought in yesterday to testify in these impeachment hearings, and it just really showboated into a biased out to get the president witch hunt. One witness that the Republicans were allowed, not that they couldn't find folks. Don't let the media fool you. According to the rules, they were only allowed one witness of like kind compared to the Dems or the left, however you want to term them, liberals, conservatives. And then, of course, they didn't care for what he had to say. They've got it in their mind that the president's already guilty. That's the problem with this whole shenanigans. You know, they're abusing their power, as the one gentleman said. He said, y'all are doing the same thing that you're accusing the president of doing. And they are. You know, contriving rules that let me step back and pause for a minute. Yeah. Current controlling party of the House of Representatives is abusing power. Plain simple, cut and dry. And it's to the point now they're just blatant about it. And I'm sure I'm going to get some feedback today of, well, don't you believe in the Constitution, old soldier? Bloody you always tell. Yeah, I do. I also believe in holding politicians accountable, regardless of their party or their beliefs. If politicians guilty of abusing their office, they ought to be held to that standard. What I get upset about is when people ignore what's going on because they're so set in their mind that the current president is guilty of everything that he's been alleged to have done. And again, I'm a firm believer this thing is a witch hunt. It is a waste of taxpayers' dollars. At the end of the day, what's going on here, folks, is that they didn't get what they wanted out of the Mueller report. His report basically found nothing. So now they've gone on this whole Ukraine bit. Okay. So let me ask this to the liberal viewers that I might have, because maybe you can explain it to me better. maybe you can. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this question. What would y'all have said had they gone after Joe Biden for what he did? Or the former President Barack Obama about the Iran deal? Part of the reason nobody wanted to touch that was towards the end of his presidency. Nobody wanted to deal with it. Nobody wanted to hold him accountable. And that was both left and right. They're like, well, he's out in a few months. We'll just let it go kind of mentality. Oh yeah, they raised some rubbish in the air about why was it dropped off in the middle of the night on an airplane, why it had to be a pallet of cash. And there was a whole diatribe of, excuses to why. Now all of a sudden we got a president that's holding people accountable for what they do, and they're trying to find anything they can to get him out of office. And it started from the day that it was announced that he won the election. You look at the testimony from two skunks from the FBI that basically said there's no way we're going to let him win the election. Right there ought to have been grounds to have them indicted on criminal charges. Okay? But they haven't been. Neither one of them have been indicted. Neither one of them have faced criminal prosecution. They were employees of the FBI. So to me, this elaborates to a bigger picture than what people are really opening their eyes to. There are people that don't want to acknowledge that there's the potential of a deep state government. I've talked about this before, of people that have been rooted probably as far back as the Johnson administration, who have put themselves in place. See, everybody's wondering how the whistleblower got access. Well, let me clue you in on a little something about government employment. I know I used to be a government employee, so I can speak to some length about this and about the rules and the processes that they have. Okay? It's not as easy to fire a government GS, general schedule, or wage grade, WG, employee as you think that it would be. Once you've got about 3 years vested in, folks, let me tell you, it darn near does take an act of Congress or an outrageous criminal violation to get rid of a federal employee. It really does. Now, there's the old adage, if you do the right paperwork, that's the other thing. The unwillingness of supervisors to do the proper paperwork to get rid of incompetent, poor performing, poor attitude employees. The actual going trend in federal government has been for years is to buck the problem along as opposed to deal with it because, you know what, we'll just pass this along. I ain't got time for it, we'll pass it along. Or I don't want to deal with the confrontation. Or I don't want to be accused of this, that, or the other. So how does this tie in? Well, the whistleblower is supposedly a government employee. Probably had enough time vested, they just could not arbitrarily fire the individual. That's how a lot of these deep staters have gotten themselves rooted. They go through the federal employment system as opposed to the political appointment system. See, political appointees are a little different. They kind of, they're definitely at the discretion of the current commander-in-chief or whoever appointed them. Yeah, sorry about keep adjusting the camera. I've got it plugged into one of them holders that plug into your car bed. But they get rooted into the employment system, so it makes it hard to terminate their employment because they have rights as a hired employee. They have certain bargaining rights, if you will, especially if they're in a non-supervisory position. Then they can belong to a collective bargaining agreement group, i.e. a union. So if say somebody wants to get rid of them, they have to go to arbitration. Then if arbitration fails, there's other recourses that have to be looked into before you can actually just outright terminate a federal employee. One of the reasons I resigned, I got sick of incompetent people not doing their job, or passing their duties along to somebody else because they were lazy, or they didn't know how to do their job, or I was having to do a lot of other people's jobs for them. There's some people out there who might disagree with that, but I really don't care. At the end of the day, I just got fed up with the bureaucracy and had to leave. But again, back to the whole point. People have been put in position to bring us to where we're at now, is my belief, my opinion, what I think. And some of it's based on some research I've done of my own. Am I right? I don't know, but I think my theory is very plausible. Because the old adage, if you want to destroy a nation, it is easier to do it from within than from without. The Bible tells us that a house divided cannot stand, and this is certainly true. How do you destroy a country? Well, first you collapse their economy. That like to happen during the last presidency's 2 terms. Then you create infighting, division, and diversion. And every time something starts to look like it's going to be open to the light of day, you create a diversion. I want you to think about that, because there were even diversions during the Bush administration as to what was going on. Because people are going to hate me for this one, but I believe that both the Bush family has a hand in this too. You gotta realize the first George Bush's political ties go way back. I'm not saying Ronald Reagan didn't have deep political ties, but I don't think he was a part of that New World Order type mentality. Now you're saying, old soldier, you're really going off on some conspiracy. Well, I'm just kind of following where things are pointing to and trying to open people's eyes to look at things from that perspective, because it's certainly plausible that these kinds of things are going on. You tell me that every time something happens that brings scandal and shame to the Clinton family, people die. People associated, affiliated, linked to it die. Once, tragedy. Twice, coincidence. 3 times, oh, we got ourselves a pattern. That's why when they said Epstein was found dead in a jail cell, I firmly believe that somebody went in and killed the man because of the knowledge that he had. Now, let's look what happened last week. Prince Andrew went and got permission from the Queen to step out of public duties because of everything's going on with Jerry Epstein mess. Because he was a known associate of Jerry Epstein. Now, I'm not going to go any further in what some of the other accusations out there against Prince Andrew are involving that. You know, there's a lot of rampant rumors about what he may or may not have done on Jeffrey's private island. Certainly plausible, though, given the nature of Jeffrey Epstein, the nature of what went on his little island. The fact that he'd already been convicted once of pedophilia and was out when he got caught and brought back in for other charges the fact that he had high-profile acquaintances, I'm not going to say friends, acquaintances. From the understanding is that he was notorious for blackmailing people, extorting them, if you will. Probably had a lot of dirt on a lot of people. I mean, if you think about it, he should have man should have been in jail way before he got put back in jail. He should have never seen the light of day what he was convicted for the first time. But given his connections, if you will, I speculate that had a lot to do with why he got out and got the light sentence that he got. Yeah, he had to register as a sex offender, but shoot, folks, the man was a multi-millionaire. And I'm not saying that, you know, well, I guess I am saying that because he was a wealthy, rich man, he was able to manipulate the legal system. Well, there is that possibility he could have. I apologize for this camera thing, folks, but that's what it is. He manipulated the legal system. You or I get caught doing what he did, you know, they'd bury us under the jail. But the point I'm getting at is that because of what he had, he said he had things on people. Like Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, when he'd come out with his ruling that the Affordable Care Act was a tax. You know, that kind of everybody was thinking that he was going to come out on the right side of that and state that it was an unconstitutional act. And at the last minute he comes out and says, nope, it's a tax, perfectly legal. No, everybody knows it was a clear violation of the Constitution because Congress was imposing a mandate that the American people purchase a good or service. And on top of that, made themselves exempt from having to purchase into it. Oh, and for all my Republican friends, a lot of our Republican in office are guilty of being in on a lot of these shenanigans and dealings. People just don't know. I've talked about one that I do have respect for, and I think he got out when he knew he needed to get out, was Trey Gowdy, former representative from the state of South Carolina. Again, to this day, I would love to see him. He ought to have been the one that got nominated to be the Attorney General for the United States. I really think that, because he's no nonsense. He's a very blunt and stern man when it comes to legal matters. From everything I've read, he was one heck of a prosecutor. Imagine what he'd have been as a defense attorney. But I think he'd have been a great nomination for the Attorney General of the United States. And I'm sure there's going to be some remarks today about, well, due process, old soldier, due process. Rule of law, yeah, rule of law, I agree. But there is such a thing as abuse of power in the rule of law. And again, this whole impeachment thing is a witch hunt and a show. Because every time the evidence doesn't add up to what they wanted, all of a sudden now we're bringing in more witnesses, legal experts. Why? Because the witnesses that you've brought have not produced an overwhelming amount of evidence to indicate that there was a clear violation or abuse of executive power from the White House. But I'm just tired of it because the people that we've elected to serve us, that's right, I said serve us, the people, We don't serve them. They are elected to serve us. Are wasting our tax dollars on this witch hunt. You think about the amount of money they've put into this. They'd put it into feeding the hungry or the homeless, or providing shelter for the homeless, or using that money to attack the opioid crisis. You tell me, folks. If I'm going off on a tangent that you don't think I ought to be going on, let me know. But I'm just sick of hearing about it. It's frustrating because when you pay taxes, you want your dollar to be well spent. Now, granted, God forgive me, I can't remember the subscriber's name now. It commented the other day on one of my posts about foreign aid. Why do we continue to give foreign aid? And he was spot on with his comment. And I've talked about that before. We waste billions upon billions of dollars in foreign aid. We need to stop giving money to countries that don't like us. Period. And once we stop giving them money, I think, I believe that right now it's irrelevant what I think and I believe. I'm frustrated this morning, folks, and I apologize for my attitude if I got one. But just sick of the waste of government money on this witch hunt. When there's so much more important things they could be doing and using that money towards. Like right now, you know, they're about to come up on a budget crisis. And I'm sure they're going to blame the president for that too. Anyway, folks. I hope everybody has a great, wonderful day. I'm going to go in here and put my Toys for Tots boxes out so we can get some Toys for Tots donated for our community here in Robeson County. Our Phi Theta Kappa chapter here at the school is doing a Toys for Tots drive. I think I mentioned that the other day. So I'm putting a couple boxes in the buildings in my department to kind of spread the message to come out and help out. So, but anyway, hope everybody has a great day. Charities, I'd ask you to remember, Valid for Vets, Pin Up for Vets, tunnelsfortowers.org, and Folds of Honor. They can't do it by themselves, folks. Anything you can do to help them certainly go a long way. They'd appreciate it, and I would too. Vendors, I'd ask you to help out. Money Quick Pawn on Rayford Road. That's where I go to for all my firearms and ammunition needs here. Robert's Custom Woodwork, again, he's closed until after the 2nd of January, but after that, get back on there and order you some custom-made Woodworks, folks. He makes great product, and an unsung patriot. And again, if you're looking for stocking stuffers and you know somebody that likes poetry, my books are still available on Amazon and will be for the unforeseen future. But they make great stocking stuffer for someone you know that would appreciate some decent poetry. So if you like my poems and you know somebody else that does, order a couple books, put in their stockings this year for Christmas. Likewise, if you like my t-shirt with anyway, or just one my old soldier approved, they're available too on my Teespring site down below. All the links are in the description. So with that being said, folks, God bless, take care. Remember our men and women who are protecting us this very moment. Remember their families as well. Until tomorrow, Old Soldier out.